Namaste. Welcome to Dave's Hammer Show. This is English talk show on Indigenous television and ITV Nepal. This talk show features in-person and sometimes online interviews with guests from different backgrounds. In this talk show, we discuss issues impacting Indigenous peoples worldwide. We bring our experiences and also connect our communities around the world. So in each episode, I invite new guests from different countries or different backgrounds who are working on the Indigenous people's issues or who are working on the, closely with the Indigenous people's issues as such. Today I have invited very renowned artists from Philippines actually. The first guest I have today is Kaan bassista.
Yes, hello. Hi, Dave.
He is the musician and also theater artist, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I have another guest also from Philippines. His name is Kuya Raul.
Yeah.
He is the director of the
Philippine
theater.
Educational Theater Association. Hello, Dave.
And first of all, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Depth Hammer Show.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello.
So before I dive into our conversations, just I would like to as I said in background a little about yourself, but I would like to request you to introduce yourself a bit, more connecting with the kind of theater work, that your work back in the Philippines, and maybe I would like to request you.
My name is Raul Alfonso. I work I'm a senior artist teacher member of Philippine Educational Theater Association. It's a professional theater company in the Philippines. We have been in business for 58 years. So we're doing theater productions and education. So we are also doing partnership programs all over the Philippines, in Asia, in North America and Europe. We have programs for children, young people, women, indigenous people, workers, peasants, farmers, you name it. We have programs for young people in school and out of school youth. We have different issues and advocacies that we do, like children's rights, women's rights, workers' rights, human rights in general in the Philippines.
In 6 decades is not a short journey, it's really long. So you have a lot of histories to tell.
Yeah.
I think this half an hour program is not enough to actually to talk about your history, but then we try to explore all your work and histories. Kaan?
I'm Kabaitan Bautista, or Kaan, as people call me. And I've just found out it's Kaan, it's ears in Nepali. I used to be a classical musician. I graduated from the oldest university in Asia, the University of Santo Tomas. I studied at the Conservatory of Music. I did a lot of classical music before. I taught in Samar, in a province in the southern part of the Philippines. When I got back to Manila, I had no job. So that's when I found PETA. And I've been with PETA for about 8 years. Kuya Raul has been with PETA for, I think, 44 years.
44 years.
Wow.
So but I'm also already a senior artist teacher in PETA, and majority of my practices for classical music and the things that I've learned from the past, I apply for now in theater.
The one major activity or work that we do is partnership. That's why we are here in Nepal. We were invited by our friends and colleagues and our partners in Asia to attend the International People's Theatre Festival 2025. So we have, I think, like 12 different countries coming from like 20 cities in all over Asia and a representative from UK.
The PETA, the short word that you are using is the Philippines Education Theater Association, right?
Yes.
So as you are using a theater as one of the medium to raise awareness to the communities, just in Nepal also I see that the theater performance actually has grown up lately, but as we are from indigenous community background, and in our blood, in our culture, though indigenous communities are not they don't have a writing history, written history, but they are oral community.
Yeah.
They perform. So there are in Philippines also there are a lot of indigenous communities, as in Philippines, which is well known. So how this theater can play a role, raising awareness about the rights are bringing, indigenous peoples or all the marginalized, or in general the people's issues? What role actually theater can play? I think you can start.
When PETA actually started, there was a lot of American theater in the Philippines, and there was still some zarzuela happening in the Philippines from the Spaniards, but there was no Filipino theater. Majority of the theater happening all around the country back then, before PETA, was a lot of repertories from America, and that's why our founders started the Philippine Educational Theater Association, so that there would be more material. Like all other countries in Asia, we have a very, very long history of theater. We have ritual theater. Praying can be theatrical too. Actually, it's always been theatrical in Asian countries, right? But it's never written down and it's never recorded. So, PETA came in to make sure that there would be more material. And the problem initially was, what if there was no audience? But the truth is, there always is an audience for, of course, our own cultures. And it turns out that people love it. People love hearing their own languages because it just hits different in the heart when you hear your own language saying beautiful and terrible things at the same time sometimes. So using the language in itself already makes a whole lot of difference. Now a mix of the music and the dances just creates a better impact, and it really promotes different cultures. So like in PETA, we study different forms of dances from across from the north to the southern part of the Philippines, and we also study the different songs and instruments. And we really go to the communities. We also ask permission, of course, if we can use their patterns or like learn certain patterns, how to play the instruments, and if they agree, we study it and then morph it into something that maybe is in the middle of what's popular music and what is indigenous music.
Music, dance, poetry is part of the daily living of the Filipinos and the indigenous people. We were conquered by the Spaniards 333 years, but there are already civilization prior to that. So we have all the indigenous people up north, in Baguio, in the Cordillera. We have in the central Luzon, in the Visayas, we have the indigenous people in the Mindanao area. So, as Kaan said, we do partnership programs with them, and we studied dances, songs, and their rituals, and looking at the meaning. So after going to, because we have a lot of community immersion programs. So after doing, having immersions or exposure to the community, so we are asking permission from them. If we can bring their issues, their rituals, their songs and dances, if we can use it in our stage. So that's why here when we attended the International People's Theater Festival, we thought of, like last year, we toyed on the idea of doing a story about the seven moons and the Arimoanga. It's a serpent. It's a
Serpent or a
dragon.
dragon. Some call it a devouring lion, but we really don't have lions in the Philippines. So maybe more like a dragon or a sea serpent eating the moons. It's a folk story that we have. Yeah. Regarding your question about how it can help indigenous communities,
Or not only indigenous but also the marginalized communities.
Yes,
as well.
especially
Who are
the
voiceless, huh?
especially the marginalized communities. People think that to do theater you need a lot of money. That's because we see Broadway on TV, we see Hollywood, so we think we need all of these rich things and nice suits, Western suits. But really, no. We don't need to do that because we've been doing theater all our lives, How our parents can shout from one part of the house to the other side of the neighborhood. That's very theatrical, We practice in PETA what we call the aesthetics of poverty, which is a practice of really just using what you already have. So like, these are actually normal clothes in some areas in the Philippines, and we see that it's nice and it's real. So we use it as a part of our costume, and we use it in many different ways. It can depict water. He's done a dance about it during the performance. Depict water, use it for several things. Like it's one piece of cloth, but when I fold it, I can have a pocket here and hide certain things, And it gets more interesting that way because we get to own our own culture, and it makes the younger generation know that using what you have is actually cool.
Speaking of indigenous people's issues, we have two big or major productions. One is about the Cordillera. It's a chieftain who fought during the Marcos regime, during the martial law, because they wanted to build a dam, the Chico River Dam in the Cordillera. So he was killed during that time because the entire community is fighting against the building of the Chico Dam. So we did a production, a big production about it. So we some actors, the directors, the production designers, or the artists in Manila, we all went to the Cordillera to study the issues, study the dances, the entire culture, all the practices. So that's the time we brought the culture of the Cordillera in our stage. So that's one way of helping them to propagate or to have a bigger audience of the issues on the Chico River Dam. And the other one is the Philippine version of the Ramayana. So we had the Philippine version of the Ramayana, but it was adopted in the Maranao culture in southern part of the Philippines.
So you told me the story about the Lugon or Baguio City, and I had a privilege to visit in this area a couple of years ago. Actually, I myself actually encountered the indigenous communities are fighting against the gold mining actually right in that area. Some of the dams that you said, but I have heard a lot in the Mindanao's areas as well. So as you rightly said that this theater has a role to bring the voices of this community, especially raising awareness, right?
Yes.
Of indigenous people's rights. So it has a play. So I think I would like to request you, Kaan. I think since you are the musician, later on I'll just bring you another way to discuss on that. I think I would like to request you to play some random music that you like.
Okay. I'll play one composition. It's a continuation of what I was playing earlier. This is a piece that I've been creating for a very, very long time, experimenting on different sounds in the guitars that I hold. They're not that extreme, but music in the indigenous communities in the northern part of the Philippines is very rhythmic. It's very simple patterns like pop, 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 pop. Very simple patterns, but eventually it grows when other people play together. And this is my interpretation of it using a modern guitar. But this one is made by a Filipino too. His name is Adolfo Timuat. He's my guitar making teacher. So, okay. We have a 2-string instrument called the kudjapi. So I start with that. And it can play a very basic, simple line, but it can get interesting when the rhythms combine. Yeah. Okay. So I'll stop talking and I'll play. So just a little difficult to get the right angle here. modern version of of our Filipino drums. See, cultures always intertwine, right? And for a time, the djembe became quite popular because of African music. Our Filipino drums don't typically come in this specific shape, although we have something similar called the tabo or the dabu-dabu. It's an 8 feet drum. So you can imagine 8 feet, like it's really big and this thick. It's literally a tree trunk turned into a drum. And in some, especially in the areas where this come from, they don't cut trees to make drums. So they wait for a tree to fall down and then shape it based on the actual shape of the drum. But this is a mix. So this is a crossbreed between a djembe, an African djembe, and a typical Filipino tambol, which is just a typical name for a regular or ordinary drum. This is horse skin, but the way I play it is almost similar to like how people play it on a djembe. So you have a low tone, a high tone, a really high tone, and then you can mix that. Oh wait, the sound is getting muffled by my malong. And then the tone also changes if you put your hand inside. So there you go.
Again, I would like to bring into a conversation, Raul, as you are here. I'm really privileged to observe and also take part in one of your performances. That was, as you always said, about the Morianga, right? The story of Morianga. Could you just tell me about that? As you already said, about that is the story of the what stars?
The moon.
The moon.
The moon.
About the moon, right? But is that connected with the Filipino kind of history, a culture, the story of a moon?
Well, according to the stories before, we have the 7 moons. And there was this serpent or a bakunawa. And the story that we brought here, we got it from the Maranao, from the Indigenous community in the south. So, in the story, I played the Arimuanga, and Kaan also played the storyteller in our show. So,
And you mixed up with the music and the story of the moon again.
yes.
The music also comes in between, or only the stories.
It's a blend of everything.
It's because that's the culture of the Filipinos. We dance, we sing, we play music instruments, we do poetry, we act, etc. So that's why we brought that format of the Arimuanga and the 7 Moons. So in our story, there was a good leader. The name is Arimuanga, and then later on, he had a very good relationship with the community, and then later on, the community flourished, and they don't need a leader anymore. They can have their own lives, and they can decide for themselves and fend for themselves. And then suddenly Arimuanga, he felt useless, and then later on,
He got jealous.
and Kaan will continue the story for
So,
me.
so Rimuanga gets really, really jealous. Like any jealous leader who really just wants more, and he started to look at the 7 moons, and the 7 moons gave light to the people, and people could do things when there was light. So he wanted to take all of the light one by one, hoping perhaps that people would need him again. Or maybe he just wanted more. We're really not sure why evil does that, but he wanted to take the moons, and so he takes them one by one by one by one until there's only one moon left. And if you think about it, the people watched Arimuanga get all of the moons one by one. They didn't do anything about it. No one shouted, no one did anything. But by the last moon, people had to react, because without the moon, there's no light anymore.
That's the magic of theater and the people's theater. So we involve the community in the process of doing the production or having the show. And then
Right from beginning to the end.
yes, that's why in the Bowal process, he's one of the gurus in theater and doing community work.
The
before.
ball
No,
process.
Bowal.
Okay.
Augusto Bowal is a guru in theater, so they do theater of the oppressed. So we use this format to do community interaction, and the actors is interacting with the audience and really involving them from the start of the show up to the end of the show. So teaching them how to be part of the show, and then later on be involved in the issues or the concerns of the people in the show, and then later on we involve them also to decide what will happen if they want in our story. Like I am the I am Marimuanga. I ate the seven moons. So we ask the people, do they want? We ask the people what is moon or the circle. What does it mean to them? What is moon to them? So we process to them. So Kaan facilitated that, and then later on, Kaan also asked the people. So what are they? What do they want to do? What will happen if we don't have the moon? So people shouted, and Arimuanga brought back the moon to the entire community. But it's really a process from the start. You really have to prepare them up to the end of the show. And towards the end of the show, you really have to process what happened in the performance, and what are the stakes of the people in the show.
Augusto Boal is a famous theater practitioner in the West. But in the Philippines, it was a lot of our mentors like Ernie Cloma in the Philippines who started to spread the practice of something similar to forum theater all around Southeast Asia. So like if you ask Ashesh Mala of Sarwanam Theater, it was when he saw the Philippine theater that he got inspired to bring up his own theater. He doesn't shy away from telling this. He keeps on repeating this to us. So in the 1980s, we have like friends like Mock and the others, along with our old senior members. They would gather and discuss what is people's theater. So people's theater is a practice of really teaching the people about theater, but discussing issues that are close to the people. So for example, we make a workshop in a small community, a far-flung community in the rural provinces that normally there are no theater practitioners there because they don't care. The government doesn't care about theater practitioners. So we go to those small communities. We ask them what are their issues, and maybe their issue might be something small or something big, like they don't have enough water. So we create theater games and we play with the kids. And then while we play with the kids, we give them prompts about water and ask them what is it about water, and then we let them do some shape and space studies with the body, like this is what water looks like. Now what does water look like when there's not enough? They can move. So they get to express their thoughts about a certain small or big issue using theater freely. And then later on they get more empowered to do it. And if we have enough time, we turn it into a show.
The forum theater is a practice that is part of the entire principle that Augusto Boal developed. You are breaking the fourth wall. So the spectators become spec actors. So you encourage them to be part of the show and give something of themselves, or really dealing with the issues that you are discussing within the show. So the show that you have seen in Sarwanam Theater, that's part of it. So we started interacting, setting the mood with the audience, and then later on, we invited your son to be part of the performance, and then later on, the people, we really setting the entire mood, and then later on, towards the end of the show, because there's a problem in our, there's an issue or a crisis. The entire community will lose the moon. So we asked them, what do you think of that? What is your stand on that? That's one way of really integrating or putting the entire people, their concept of freedom, of power, of empowerment. So we discussed that with them. And then towards the end, everybody's part of the entire show.
But that's also where it gets scary, Kuya. Kuya is big brother. That's where it gets scary when we open the forum. Because if it's a forum, a lot of the things that happen within the show is also dependent on what the audience replies. So actually in the show, if the audience said they didn't want the 6 moons back, okay, then we're not going to have the 6 moons back. Then we would end the show.
Yeah.
Then it's something we have to discuss with the audience later on.
So that is what I liked, the theater performance that you did. That was really participatory,
Yeah.
method kind. In Nepal also I have not a lot, but a couple of the theater performance. What the Nepali artists actually do is here is they perform their show, and at the end of the show, just like problem solving, they actually end up with certain problem, and they start with uh, getting feedback from the participants. But I liked your idea is you actually involved the participant right from the beginning, also in between, and also at the end. So that is what I like. So my question to you is the how this the role of this participatory theater in terms of problem solving or building a kind of critical thinking about the mass. How can we use this theater into small community, as you said, in rural area who don't have access even to a television, but they are facing a problem of kind to bring that sort of issue to the mainstream?
The forum theater is really one school of practice. Us, we trained also, like artist teachers of PETA, we trained for forum theater. That's why when Kaan said, we prepared for all the possibilities of what will happen to the show. So we are open to, if the people doesn't want the 7 moons together, we will go to that direction. Or if they want the 7 moons, yeah. Right now, I think we do that practice long time ago. We studied the forum theater, the Bowal process. We teach regularly, so we know how to facilitate the people. It's a it's not an overnight thing. So we need to practice and to develop that skills of facilitation of really involving the people, encouraging them to be part of the show, and doing it again and again and practicing again. And I think one of the groups here is Sarwanam. They're doing this forum theater. It's very nice to do this, especially in the far-flung areas. People who doesn't have electricity or that they don't have access to televisions or to the internet. So it's easy, like a forum theater. You discuss, you do like an interaction with the audience, and then discuss with them also, or them identifying what are the different issues or concerns of the community, and start doing theater with them using the forum theater.
It's interesting that you mentioned that question of how it helps again, because this is not something new, and in fact, it's not something that theater only has done. Yesterday, there was an interesting question in one of our forums about how we can include more children into theater. And then I raised the point that, maybe that's a little difficult because Soik from Korea was discussing that they did these types of theater for 3 months straight. And I said, that's difficult because of the budget. It's hard to gather money. And then he looked at me sternly, and I felt like my father was giving me a lecture. He said, no, you keep on mentioning money, but money is not the problem. It's the Asian spirit. And then that's when I realized that, yeah, of course, money is still a problem. I don't completely agree with him, but it's also true that a lot of the Asian spirit is lost, the spirit of community. Because forum theater is about involving the community in the creation of the performance and in the discussion of the performance. And that's something we've always done as people. Going back to our roots, like in the mountains, people would dance around in a ceremony, and people weren't forced to. They weren't scared to join a theatrical dance. People just started to dance, and people started to join, and people did it. And whenever we feel that sense of community, whether we get an answer or not, we have a sense of belongingness, and we go back to how we are essentially human. And I think being Asian, we are very, very sensitive to the human condition and how we are very, very sensitive to each other's feelings. And that's why a lot of us Asians can be very, very apologetic, like especially when there's a Western man standing in front of us and then looks at us and we apologize for no reason. But it's because we're sensitive. We're very sensitive, and we also have to route that sensitivity into a sense of community. Yeah.
So you have some props in front. What is that?
Okay.
So we brought, this is the main character in our story. This is, say it,
Arimoanga.
say it with the tune.
Arimoanga.
Arimoanga, Arimoanga, Arimoanga.
Is that the dance, or you are just telling about this?
Oh well, this is this is made in the Philippines by our friend, a production designer and an architect. His name is Errol Enriquez. When we started developing the performance last November,
Mhm.
that's correct, or
Yes.
October, when we were got the invitation from the International People's Theatre Festival 2025, we already started developing the performance. And then later on, we identified one major character, Arimuanga, and it's big dragon. So we tried asking him to really develop this material, and is it still there?
Yes, it still turns on and
Turns
off.
on and off.
And you can
So
blink.
this is the headpiece that we brought, and this is part of the entire performance. I'm wearing it when I transform from a storyteller, and I pass on the storyteller task to Kaan, and while playing everything, and then I wear this, and then so I started mingling and interacting with the audience.
I'm not sure if how that looks is based from Rachel's graphic design. The images that we used for the performance were graphics by Rachel Gimpes. She designed how the dragon would look like. If you look at, we talked about the aesthetics of poverty a while ago and how we can actually use simple materials. This is just Eva foam. If you touch it, it's literal
It's
foam. It's very, very
Very
malleable.
soft, yeah.
And if you look at it close, it doesn't look like it's gonna look good on stage, right? But actually, when the light hits because of the texture, it suddenly comes alive. There are so many ways in theater that you can have something look amazing and magical without using expensive things. This is all plastic. You can.
Yeah, but we also brought a multimedia. When you saw it, we have, like he said, it's Rachel and a friend of ours, Gold, who
Yeah.
worked with it, the multimedia
Yeah.
that we are showing, and the crazy Kaan here doing the video, the sound effects, playing the musical instruments, singing, and I'm dancing and everything. So it's just the two of us. That's why we really opted. I mean, it's the International People's Theatre Festival, and the form is really the forum theater. So we decided to really involve and create a community using the participation capacities of the audience.
All right. So we have reached almost at the end of the show. So I would like to request you to give maybe one line message to the audiences who actually love to be involved with the theater,
Yeah. Okay.
especially from indigenous community or
Theater is giving yourself, giving your heart, and giving your soul. It's a commitment. So if you really want to do theater, express yourself, put your soul into it, and commit into it.
Theater is not something that you can get into full force for yourself alone. Until you can accept that theater is something that you do with other people, it's going to be very difficult to stay in it and be good at it. I was telling him the other day, we were evaluating all of the things that happened during the festival. It really mattered to me that I found and I was mentored by people like him to really experience the joy of theater and the joy of sending a message and learning from people as well as the audience. So maybe, what's my real message? Maybe my best message for someone who would go into theater is enjoy being part of a community bigger than yourself.
Thank you, Kaan and Raul, for joining us today on the Dave's Hammer Show and also sharing your very special your insights here. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much,
Dave.
Dave.
So
Thank
we
you so
have
much for the
raised-
opportunity.
We have reached at the end of the show, but our conversation actually continues. If you have any queries or feedbacks regarding Dave's Hammer, so you can reach us at indigenousetelevision@gmail.com. Next week we'll come up with new guests to featurize and different issues. By then, have a nice weekend. And at the end of the show, I would like to request Kaan, as you started with very nice music. So I would like to just request you to end up our show also with beautiful music. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye. Namaste.
Amang lumikha ng sangkatauhan, ng tubig, ng hangin, apoy at kalupaan. Alay namin sa iyong paanan, likhang sining aming nakayanan. Salamat sa araw, sa bituin at buwan, sa tubig, sa hangin at kalikasan. Salamat sa kapwa, sa mga hinirang. Pagpalain mo, Ama, bayan aming mahal.